and welcome to Indus News Live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. The U.S. said that Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has held productive talks with the stakeholders of the Afghan peace process. State Department spokesperson Ned Price says surveillance levels in Afghanistan are unacceptably high. Ned Price's statement comes after Khalilzad wrapped up his three-day visit in Kabul. The U.S. House of Representatives has cancelled its planned Thursday session over a possible attack on the Capitol. Police have warned that a militia group could breach the Capitol building. Some right-wing conspiracy theorists claim that former President Donald Trump will be sworn in for a second term in office on March 4th. Yemen's Houthi rebels say they have fired a missile at a Saudi Aramco facility in the port city of Jeddah. Saudi authorities have not commented on the claim yet. Earlier, the Saudi-led coalition said it destroyed a Houthi drone over the southern city of Khamis Mushat. Pro-democracy activists have returned to the streets across Myanmar to protest against the military rule. It comes after 38 people were killed in the most violent day of unrest since last month's military's coup. The protesters were demanding the release of ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi and restoration of democracy. The number of global COVID-19 infections has surpassed 115 million with more than 2.55 million deaths. Brazil has reported over 1,900 coronavirus fatalities as the country's death toll is nearing 160,000. In Pakistan, more than 1,500 people tested positive for the virus and 64 died overnight with the death toll reaching 13,076. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the news in detail. The U.S. said its Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has held productive talks with the stakeholders of the Afghan peace process. State Department spokesperson Ned Price says surveillance levels in Afghanistan are unacceptably high. Price's statement comes after Khalilzad wrapped up his three-day visit in Kabul. Khalilzad had held meetings with Afghan leaders, activists and other influential political figures. The U.S. envoy is set to depart for Doha, where he will discuss Afghan peace with the Taliban. The U.S. House of Representatives has cancelled its planned Thursday session over threats of a possible attack on the Capitol. Authorities warned that an unidentified militia group could breach the building on March 4th. In a statement, the Capitol Police said it was prepared for any potential threats to Congress members and the complex. The police said it made significant security upgrades and increased manpower to ensure the protection of Congress. Earlier, the Department of Homeland Security and FBI issued a joint intelligence bulletin warning of potential violence.
Senator, we issued a bulletin last night, co-authored with the FBI, about extremists discussing March 4th and March 6th. Is that what you're referring to? It's a joint intelligence bulletin we released last night around, it was very late, midnight, I think. Yes.
Okay. Well, again, so the threats are ongoing.
Yes.
This comes after some right-wing conspiracy theorists claim former President Donald Trump will be sworn in for a second term on March 4th. And now moving on, Yemen's Houthis said they have fired a missile at a Saudi Aramco facility in the Red Sea city of Jeddah. In a tweet, a Houthi military spokesperson called the attack a response to siege and aggression against Yemenis. Yahya Sarriah said the rebels had struck their target without elaborating. The Saudi authorities have not commented on the claim yet. However, the Saudi-led coalition earlier said it destroyed an armed Houthi drone launched at the southern Khamis-Mushat city. The Houthi Sarriah said in a separate tweet that the attack targeted a military site in Khamis-Mushat. Pro-democracy activists have returned to the streets across Myanmar to protest against the military rule. It comes after 38 people were killed on the most violent day of unrest since last month's military coup. 5 fighter jets made several low passes in a formation over the city of Mandalay. Aung San Suu Kyi's party says flags will fly at half-mast at its offices to commemorate the deaths. The protesters have been demanding the release of ousted leader Suu Kyi and restoration of democracy. UN Special Envoy on Myanmar, Christine Schreiner Bergener, said the death toll from the protest has risen to over 50. Bergener also warned that Myanmar's army may be going back to square one on the treatment of the Rohingya Muslims. She said the junta is following through on its intention to re-evaluate the work of the 2 commissions on the Rohingya. Diplomats said the UN Security Council is due to discuss Myanmar's situation on Friday in a closed meeting. At least 20 migrants have drowned off Djibouti after human smugglers pushed 80 people off the boat. In a tweet, the International Organization for Migration said the boat was on its way to Yemen. Regional Director for Africa, Mohammed Abdikar, said this is the third such tragedy in less than 6 months. He said more than 70 lives have been lost in such incidents. Meanwhile, an IOM spokesperson said smugglers had judged that the boat was overloaded. Evan Nege said dozens of others thrown off the boat were also feared to have died. The number of global coronavirus infections has crossed 115 million with more than 2.55 million deaths. Brazil has reported over 1,900 daily fatalities as the country's death toll approaches 160,000. Details in the following report.
As the data on new coronavirus variants comes out, the results indicate highly distressing trends. Scientists believe that Brazil's rampant COVID-19 outbreak has become a global threat. A record spike in deaths for the second straight day forces Brazil's Sao Paulo state to impose more restrictions. The World Health Organization has also warned of a worrisome rise in cases after weeks of declining infections. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden says the decision to end the mask mandate in Texas and Mississippi states is a big mistake.
The last thing we need is Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime everything's fine, take off your mask, forget it. It still matters. I carry a card with me, I don't have it, I put it on my desk. As of yesterday, we had lost 511,874 Americans.
Elsewhere, a landmark report reveals that countries with high obesity levels, such as the UK and the US, have the highest death rates from COVID-19. Greece has extended the lockdown to more areas until March 15 after a surge in new infections. Meanwhile, Germany has adopted a new plan for gradual relaxation of the country's long-running lockdown.
Und jetzt liegt die Aufgabe der Politik.
Politicians' task now is, and this is what we discussed during so many hours, to take the next steps wisely. They should be opening steps without setting ourselves back during this pandemic. There are many examples in Europe of a dramatic third wave, and this danger, and we shouldn't delude ourselves, also exists for us. We must always keep this in mind. Yet I can say that spring of 2021 will be different from the spring 1 year ago.
More published evidence shows the UK variant is likely to drive a large surge without faster vaccine drives and more shutdowns, and international police say security officials in China and South Africa have seized thousands of counterfeit vaccine doses.
COVID-19 has claimed 64 more lives in Pakistan over the last 24 hours, taking the toll to 13,076. The health ministry reported 1,590 new infections overnight. It said the caseload has reached over 585,000. The ministry said more than 555,000 people have recovered so far. It added the number of active cases has reduced to just over 17,000. A little under 2,000 patients are currently being treated in hospitals for COVID-19. Pakistan Army's annual training exercise ZARB-E-HADEED is underway at military's Bahawalpur Corps. Army's media wing ISPR says the Corps' level exercise is aimed at enhancing operational preparedness amongst components of forces. In a statement, it said the exercise area covers a vast expanse of desert and plains. The ISPR said troops from Bahawalpur Corps are rehearsing response measures under actual battlefield environment. It added participants have displayed a high level of professionalism during the tactical combat and firepower demonstration phases. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan will seek a vote of confidence from the parliament following the Senate polls. This comes after opposition candidate Yusuf Raza Gilani beat ruling party's Abdul Hafiz Sheikh to win a seat from the capital. In a press conference, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said their party take members on board on every issue. Qureshi added a vote of confidence for the Premier will make it clear who stood where after the vote. The Foreign Minister said the Election Commission has failed to ensure transparency. According to unofficial results, the ruling Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has emerged as the largest single party in the Senate by bagging 26 seats. British lawmakers are set to debate the threat to press freedom and the safety of protesters in India next week. The House of Commons Petitions Committee confirmed this after an online petition crossed 100,000 signatures. In Delhi, a court has granted bail to 5 persons, including a high school student, in a case related to the Republic Day violence. The court said the accused cannot be kept in custody merely on this apprehension that they might again commit a similar offense. Since November 26, farmers have been protesting on Delhi borders against the 3 controversial farm laws. More than 200 farmers have died in the ongoing agitation, including 5 who committed suicide. A global non-profit that works on digital rights says India is leading the world in internet shutdown. In a report, Access Now said nearly 70% of global net outages in 2020 happened in India. The group says out of 155 instances of internet shutdown in India, 109 took place at the behest of the Modi government. The watchdog cited the blackout in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir as an example. Access Now elaborated that India has been topping the global list for the last 2 years now. It urged the Modi government to ensure more transparency in how these shutdowns are enforced. The U.S. has hailed Germany's plan to sail a warship across the South China Sea. A State Department spokesperson called it support for a rules-based international order in the Indo-Pacific. She said the international community has a vital stake in the preservation of an open maritime order. Earlier, China said countries enjoy the freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea under international law. However, it added this must not be taken as an excuse to undermine Beijing's sovereignty and security. Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken reiterated the need to engage Beijing from a position of strength.
Our relationship with China will be competitive when it should be, collaborative when it can be, and adversarial when it must be. The common denominator is the need to engage China from a position of strength. That requires working with allies and partners, not denigrating them, because our combined weight is much harder for China to ignore.
President Joe Biden says the U.S. will make its judgments on a rocket attack in Iraq after identifying who was responsible. On Wednesday, a U.S. contractor died after 10 rockets hit an airbase housing the coalition troops in Anbar province. Talking to reporters in the Oval Office, Biden said Washington is following the incident through right now. He said only a contractor died in the attack, but he passed on due to a cardiac arrest. The Pentagon said the U.S. has shown it won't shy away from responding to attacks against its personnel when necessary. In a press briefing, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said Iraq will investigate the attack and the U.S. will see what they learned. He said if a response is warranted, the U.S. will act. And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Senegal's main opposition leader has been arrested after hundreds of his supporters clashed with the police in the capital, Dakar. Ousmane Sonko's supporters burned tires and threw rocks at riot police, who responded by firing tear gas. They are protesting against the accusation of rape against him. Last month, a beauty salon employee accused Sonko of rape and he was summoned for questioning at a courthouse. But he has denied the allegation and accuses President Macky Sall's government of trying to undermine him. Earlier, Senegal's parliament voted to strip Sonko of his legal immunity, paving the way for a police investigation of the case. At least 8 people have been wounded in a knife attack in the town of Vetlanda in Sweden. The regional council said all victims were hospitalized and 3 of them have life-threatening injuries. The police said they're investigating possible terror motives for the attack. A police spokesperson said the assailant attacked at 5 locations and was arrested after being shot and wounded. The spokesperson said the man was previously known to police for minor crimes. She added the situation is under control and there are no indications of anyone else's involvement in the attack. In a statement, Prime Minister Stefan Löfven has condemned the heinous incident. A prototype of the SPACEX Starship rocket SN10 has exploded after successfully launching and landing vertically. The high-altitude experimental test was conducted in the U.S. state of Texas. Touching down in a vertical position, the SN10 made it further than the previously tested models. The SN9 and SN8 had blown up on their final descent. The video feed provided by SpaceX cut the signal after touchdown, but various fan feeds on social media showed the rocket exploding at the base of the craft. The Starship SN10 was a test model heavy-lift rocket developed by renowned entrepreneur Elon Musk's private space company. It intended to carry up to 100 tons of cargo and humans on future missions to the Moon and Mars. The cause of the rocket's explosion is still unclear. Paragliders Horacio Lawrence and Rafael Goberna expertly glided around the world's largest fountain at the Point Palm Jumeirah in Dubai. Spaniard Lawrence, a 5-time world champion, and Brazilian Goberna took to the skies defying gravity and performing in unison. The Palm Fountain features 2 floating platforms which cover 14,000 square meters of seawater. It reaches 105 meters high with a display involving 3,000 LED lights that are in sync with hit songs from sunset until midnight. Walt Disney's latest animated movie, Raya and the Latest Dragon, aims to offer a fresh take on a princess tale in a fantasy world. The critics have appreciated the film's animation, storytelling, and message. More in this report. The filmmakers at Walt Disney Animation Studios were faced with a novel challenge. Over 6 years, around 6 different films and storylines were created and screened to test audiences around the characters, but none felt quite right. The final version incorporates characters and themes from all the previous projects. The baddies of the piece are the purple fog creatures who arbitrarily turn people to stone.
You and the dragon are coming with me.
My sword here says we're not.
The plot resonates strongly in today's world, draws its cultural roots from Southeast Asia. The movie features prominent Asian actors in Hollywood, from Kelly Marie Tran, Awkwafina to Gamma Chan, Daniel Day Kim, and Sandra Oh. Awkwafina says she is happy about Hollywood being inclusive. Tran says the vision for the movie is different from what is historically thought of and seen of a Disney princess. Co-director Don Hall says they had been careful during COVID-19 to not sound opportunistic, as the movie features a killer plague virus. The movie is being released on the 5th of March on Disney+. 10 years after the Fukushima disaster in Japan, a pet whisperer who lives in the restricted zone vows to stay with his feline friends to the end. More in this report.
Sakai Keto has found his life's purpose in taking care of abandoned pets in an empty township of Fukushima's restricted zone, while all of his neighbors and family fled after the quake and subsequent nuclear plant meltdown a decade ago. Kato vowed to stay on and began taking care of the former residents' stray pets. Kato and his 41 stray cats live in a two-story house that has fallen into utter despair.
Police and firefighters have come and asked me why I am still here, and I told them that I have to be here because I need to take care of these abandoned cats. They said life is important and everyone was evacuated. But at that time, I thought I would die, and if I had to die, I decided that I would like to die with these kids.
His project eats up around $7,000 a month for food, fuel, and veterinary expenses. Kato estimates he has spent at least $750,000 over the past 10 years.
It's getting harder to take care of the animals, so I think it will be even much harder in 10 years. So I want to be around when the last cat dies. Then I want to die after that, no matter if it takes a day or an hour.
But Kato's kindness has not always received a warm welcome from onlookers. On 25th of February, Kato was arrested on suspicion of freeing wild boar caught in trap set up by Japan's government in November.
The brother of American singer MARIAH CAREY has sued her for defamation and inflicting emotional distress. The accusations are based on the content of her recent best-selling memoir, The Meaning of MARIAH CAREY. Martin CAREY has sought unspecified damages in a complaint filed in a New York state court. The lawsuit comes 1 month after MARIAH's older sister, Allison, sued her for $1.25 million over the same memoir. The book was published in September and topped the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list in October. It describes the dysfunctional, poverty-stricken childhood and early career struggles of the 51-year-old music artist. The U.S. has called on Saudi Arabia to renounce its special developing nation status at the World Trade Organization. Washington noted the World Bank designated the G20 member as a high-income country. In a statement to the WTO, Washington said Riyadh is a wealthy and influential player in the global economy. It said the step will allow Saudi Arabia to significantly contribute to ensuring the WTO remains a viable forum for trade talks. The U.S. also asked the Geneva-based trade watchdog to improve the protection of intellectual property. Shares in the Asia-Pacific have plummeted, following overnight declines on Wall Street as bond yields rose again. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is leading the losses, tumbling nearly 2.5%. Japan's Nikkei 225 and mainland Chinese stocks dropped over 2% each. South Korea's Kospi has shed nearly 1.5%, while Australia's ASX 200 has also dipped close to 1%. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.